right. Welcome, 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 welcome. So I am glad to see all of our participants again. If you have not met her, she is Tisha Poncio. She is amazing. So if you are joining us for the first time, oh my God, you missed it. But guess what? You can always go back to YouTube and watch her last session. You've got to understand how allowing creativity with your students, and hold on, this is unmask. All right. So, understanding how creativity with your students actually really empowers them, and it empowers you when you let go of those straps of education and that hold that you have on your kids to let them actually bring you into their creativity minds, because guess what, they got some creative juices that we really need to start milking so that we can actually grow as educators. And it's all about the give and take. So she's going to show us some new things that we're going to grasp, go forth, and actually make sure that our students are ready to go into this global universe that they're going to experience now, because now we are gone global with this conference. We are all across the country broadcasting live right now. So again, I'm going to introduce you to Tisha Poncio.
Thank you, Jamila. That was awesome. I am so excited to be with you today. I'm actually very sad because I have just realized that this is my last hour with all of you, but she was right. You can go back and watch any of the previous recordings of my sessions. And I really want to help any of the teachers that are watching and just support you. My goal this year in 2020 has been, to make things easier for you. So I hope that the things that I've shared with you today will actually do that. This session is called How to Leverage Wakelet for Student Engagement. And we are going to talk about Wakelet a little bit. Before I show you this Wakelet collection, I just wanted to share with you that I am an educator. This is my 21st year in education. I was in the classroom for about 8 years, teaching English 1 and 2, broadcasting, multimedia, webmastering, programming, so many things. Okay, Frederick has a question about Wakelet and Clever. So yes, I know that they will help answer that, Frederick, for you. I'm going to go ahead and share now so that you can see this collection here. So we're going to talk about Wakelet for student engagement. And I'm just, again, going to show you examples of how I have used it in the classroom. So the first question that I always am asked is, what is Wakelet? So I want to really cover that question before we move any further along. Wakelet, very simply, is a tool to curate resources for students. Okay, so it very much is like Pinterest, but I want to show you why I like it better than Pinterest. So on a very simple scale, here is why it's better than Pinterest. And I am a Pinterest user. So just so you guys know, I use Pinterest, still do, but Wakelet allows me as the educator, first of all, the educator, but then the student. So as a student, they can do this too. I can paste a URL, so I can add web links. I can add text. I can embed YouTube videos so that my students are not going out of this Wakelet collection. I can add tweets. You'll see that there is a tweet I've embedded in this collection later on. I also can add images, so you can see that I have created my own background image as well as my own header image. I always encourage my students to create their own images so they're not having to worry about copyright. I also could upload a PDF. If I have a PDF that I need to share with the student, I can do that. It's linked to OneDrive and Google Drive as well. And it's also got an embed feature for Flipgrid videos. This is why it's better than Pinterest, because I'm able to really utilize artifacts that have to do with my classroom, with learning goals and objectives. And so that is the why behind why I use it so often. But I do want to start off and tell you that I did not start off using Wakelet as a power user. I was not a power user in the beginning. And the truth is, I wasn't sure how Wakelet was ever going to help me. I did not know how it would benefit me and what I was currently doing. So what I've done for you is on this collection, which we're going to share this Wakelet link with you at the top. You will get that link. Inside of this Wakelet, I've added a beginning Wakelet learning guide that I've created, and it walks you through how to create a Wakelet account, how to create a collection, how to share a collection, maybe how to add this collection to Schoology or Canvas or Google Classroom, how to invite your students as collaborators. So I'm going to show you that as we go along. But this learning guide is for those really beginning Wakelet users. And for those of you that are watching that are beginner users, I want you to know that I did not start off loving Wakelet. It was a very slow process. I had to see how it was really going to benefit me and how it was going to benefit my students. But once I figured out how to use it for engaging students, I use it all the time now. And so I've also added, for those of you that are new, a weekly Wakelet training link here. Wakelet puts together, I believe, every week beginner sessions. So they go over all of the beginning things that you need to know in order to utilize that in your classroom. So I've linked that there for you. Now, let's talk about how can you use Wakelet to communicate? Well, the very first and easiest way that you could use Wakelet to communicate is to use Wakelet as a website. Now, I've used Google Sites, I've used WordPress, I've used like Blogger, I've used Bulb. There's so many different options out there for teachers. But this year, I decided to just use Wakelet. So I want to show you how I've done that for my teachers on my campus. So this is really how I've utilized it as a digital coach, but you could take the same concept and you could use it for your classroom. Again, custom headers, right? So I don't have to go getting copyright permission. And then I sectioned off my Wakelet into sections that made sense for my teachers. So you would do the exact same thing, maybe for your parents. So I started with what is blended and remote learning, and I created collections that really would help those teachers that were new to this environment. I have a collection with 15 items for digital learning tips. I have best practices with 52 items here. And I have technology integration models with 9 items. So if you're not sure what those are SAMR and TPAC. And I wanted my teachers to really have a great understanding of those integration models before they even went further with their remote learning and teaching. Then I have learning management systems. We currently only use Google Classroom. So that made sense for me to add that here. That is what we chose to do as a district. And then Seesaw, some of the teachers were utilizing Seesaw within Classroom. So I added that. The one that I would be adding soon would be Schoology, because we've been looking into that. And I know you guys, some of you out there are using Schoology or Canvas. So I would add that here as its own collection. And then I went through and thought, okay, what's really going to benefit my teachers? Well, in the beginning of remote learning, they really wanted to know about Zoom. They also wanted to know how does Zoom and Google Meet compare? So I made a graphic for them showing them all the different features of Zoom and Google Meet. Gave them some tips on synchronous and asynchronous meetings here. And then just screen recording tips. So those were some of the very first questions that I was asked by my own teachers. Again, when you're using Wakelet as a website communication tool, make sections and collections that make sense to you. I'm going to show you an elementary example next, but I just want you to see that I've put together things that I know are going to help them. So let's close that out and let's look at the next example. How can you use Wakelet to communicate? Well, you can use Wakelet to be your newsletter. I know a lot of elementary teachers love to put together newsletters for their parents on a weekly basis. So I am showcasing this Wakelet collection, and it is by Brandy Reams. I cannot remember Brandy's Twitter username right now off the top of my head. But if you reach out to me, I will send you to Brandy so you can follow her. But she uses this for her kindergarten classroom. And this is her archived newsletters. Okay, so that's very important for you to know. This collection is specifically for last school year. But week 1, introduction to everything. Week 2, news and content. And then she goes throughout each week and she has different reminders. So we're going to click on week 4. And remember, this is what she's sharing with her parents. So they only have to go to that one link to get all the updated information. And she's organized it by date. So you can see that by date and week. So again, organize these collections and your site with what makes sense for you. Let's scroll through. She has important information. So she's added all of her text. She had the ability to bold certain parts of that text. Again, for parents, this is a very, very great way to communicate with them. Severe weather. And then she has some PDFs that she's added in here so that, she can communicate. Her wish list is here. On one of her other collections, she added the sign up genius for the year so her parents could sign up to bring snacks or to help with parties. She has her sight words listed here in a completely different Wakelet collection. I love this. I have never noticed this, but she used the text feature to add like a little divider here so that her parents could then see, okay, this is what we're doing in math and ELA. The story of the week is here. And you can scroll down and see all of her examples. I love showcasing Brandy's stuff because it's a really authentic way for you to see how a kindergarten teacher is implementing this. You could do this in all sorts of different ways, depending on what grade level. Also, if you run clubs, you could use this for your clubs as well. So you, again, will get this collection, this Wakelet link, and you'll have access to Brandy's examples. Next, I am going to tell you that to use Wakelet to communicate, let your kids use them to present. Why could they not use Wakelet to present like I'm doing right now? All of the artifacts are in one link. I could take that link and I could submit it to you, my teacher, as evidence of my learning and completing the project. So here's how I did that with my students. We were asked to present for DigCit Week last week, and I assigned the outline to 2 students. So they submitted their outline into Google Classroom for me, and then they shared it with everybody on the team. This is their document completed. They thought through everything they needed to do, who they needed to get permission from, what time we were presenting. They filled out the registration link and the presentation details. They came up with a title. They talked about what needed to happen. They even assigned me what I needed to do here. So that is what I want to remind you. I did not create this document. They created it. They shared it with me. And they told me what I was doing. Again, a student-led culture, right? Like I'm cultivating them leading this process. They use different colors to make notes for themselves and for me. And so after they put all of this together, then they went over and made a Wakelet collection. Now, here's what you should know. This Wakelet collection, DigCit Summit 2020, it's loading now, but what you'll see is they created the graphic. So the header, they did a custom header with their pictures, and I created the actual collection. So here's what I want to show you, because 13 and over in Wakelet can create their own accounts. 13 and under cannot create accounts, but that doesn't mean that they cannot engage with you, okay? So I created this collection, and they knew that they were going to present from Wakelet. They had a discussion about it. What are we going to use to present? Are we going to use Google Slides? Are we going to use Wakelet? Are we going to use whatever? They decided on Wakelet. And what I did is I clicked the invite button, and on invite contributors right here, I copied this link. Or if you have little learners, you can use the QR code or just the copy code. I took this link over into my learning management system, Schoology, Google Classroom, Canvas. And when they clicked on that link, they had the ability to edit, because when you invite a student to contribute to a collection, they can edit. So they clicked the edit button, and then they went and added their artifacts. So you see, I'm going to scroll down. Wyatt added this graphic on October 18th of 2020. Then I'm going to scroll down a little bit longer. They had tips for students. Olivia added that on October 18th, and they also added their names at the bottom so I would know who worked on this graphic. Erin added some research. So she was going to find research that backed up what the students were talking about for tips on media balance. And so she added these articles. I can see she did that because it has her name. And if I continue to scroll through, this is basically how I'm grading the students, right? Like I see that they've done these projects. Anora created this graphic. She added it on the 18th. So this is one way that they were using Wakelet and Google Docs to all collaborate at different times to put together a presentation project. Let me go back, and I've actually included in this collection that you'll get, I've included their recording so you can go listen to them present. They're talking about how to find media balance in the classroom, and they have some tips there. So I included that for you if you want to go listen or even have your students listen. It's great digital citizenship lesson. Then this is really the star of the show for me because I'm a digital coach. I know that you feel the pressures of all of the little things piling up this year. And so for me, in order to support my teachers more than I ever have, I needed to put together some student-paced lessons for them so that they were meeting my learning goals and objectives in my class, because it's an actual class where they get a grade. And so for me, Wakelet has done this incredible thing for me, okay? I've given you examples here, but I want to show you on this photo. You can see that I've pulled it into Google Classroom. You could do the same thing with Schoology. I call them modules. So the module 1 is Google level 1 and 2 self-paced. Module 2 is student leadership, and module 3, they're learning design principles. Okay, that's what you need to know. So I've assigned it to them, and all I did was hyperlink that Wakelet link right here. Now they're not collaborating on it. They are just going through the resources that I've given them. And they are just completing the work. They're watching the videos. They're completing the flip grid. So let's go look at an example. Let me go back to this. So here is Module 1, Basics of G Suite, Level 1 and 2. And as soon as that comes up, you are going to see the learning objectives. You're going to see the overall goal. And I created this in their SWOT account. I'll show you how I did that in just a minute. I did not invite them to collaborate. So the goal of this lesson is not for them to add anything. All I did was hit the share button here, and you can see that I can share it to Google Classroom. I can do a QR code for little learners. I can just copy it, or I didn't note this in the first session, but I want you guys to know that if you ever are thinking, oh, what if I don't have Wi-Fi access, or maybe a student doesn't, I've exported Wakelet collections as PDFs. And those links are live. So you could export it as a PDF. Your students could work through it. And then when they have Wi-Fi, they'd still be able to click those links. So I love this option. There's an embed option as well. So I'm guessing in Schoology, now I'm not super skilled on this yet, but I'm guessing there is a way to embed in Schoology. And so the embed code is here as well. So that's what I did with this. I shared the link. So you could do it here, or you could do it in the URL at the top. Shared it over into Learning Management System as an assignment, gave them a due date, and when they click the link, it brings them here. I've given them their learning objectives so they understand that at the end of this entire module, they are going to be tested over Google certification level 1 or level 2. So I've added in articles. I've added in Flipgrid reflections. I've added in some PDFs so they can check their skills, because the truth is, if they already know how to do it, why are they going to spend time relearning it if they know how to do it? So they're checking off what they know. Then they're doing some little projects. So my level 1 students aren't really as skilled as my level 2 students. And then they're going to go into the Google Education's Teacher Center, and they're going to go through those units. They're going to get little check marks. So I'm doing checkpoints. That's how I'm taking their grade. I'm doing checkpoint 1 week, checkpoint 2 the next week. And all I'm doing is having them show evidence that they are making progress through this module. Then at the very end of this, they are going to take the exam. And this is actually where we are right now. You can see I added this on August 28th of this year. I had one student test 2 weeks ago for level 2. She has her level 2 certification. I had 2 students test level 1 this past week. You can see that their due date was in December, but the truth is, they're self-pacing through this, and it is October, the end of October, and I believe they're all going to be certified before Thanksgiving. So they're actually ahead in their own pacing of this module. So I have given you a ton of examples here. There's a digital citizenship lesson that I have. And so you guys can make copies of any of these. Student leadership. If you can't make a copy, you just have to reach out to me and let me know, and I will give you access so that you can utilize these in your classroom. Again, I want to make things easier for you. I've included as well this Wakelet Student Ambassador Program. And what this program is it actually has students practice curation, digital citizenship, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. I mean, it really encompasses all of the 6 C's. And at the very end, Wakelet gives them a certificate and a badge, maybe a couple of badges. I can't remember. But this I have also utilized for self-pacing, or I have used it as a supplemental project for those students, because I have them that they get finished very quickly, right? Very much sooner than I anticipated them to. So I have them work on this ambassador program. If you do implement this, I want to remind you to really be patient. Maybe tell them they're going to work on this throughout the year. Don't expect them to be finished by Christmas, right? So you don't want to overwhelm them or yourself. But this is a great program to utilize for self-pacing and self-lesson, and learning, like learner autonomy. I've included one tweet here because I want you to hear from this young lady from India. She actually sent me a message that said, "Thank you so much. I didn't realize all of the things I learned with the Student Ambassador Program until I was at the very end." And what it did is it really empowered her. And I watched the same thing happen with my own students. It empowers them to feel like they've accomplished something. They're getting the certificate, they're getting the badges. And I really just think that's part of empowering our students is letting them lead the learning, because then it's really their achievement when they reach that goal. Next, I want to talk more about social and emotional learning. I've talked about that a little bit all day, but we've talked walk-up songs in the last session. I want to show you this. Now, this is specifically for teachers. So I use this as a digital coach, and I did this with my teachers. I asked them the same question I asked my students. If you had one song that would play every time you entered the room for the rest of your life, what would it be? I customized the header again. I left the background white. I gave them their instructions. I tell them exactly what they need to do. Click the edit button, click the green plus sign. And they've all these teachers have added their YouTube song videos. And what I'm planning on doing with this is actually taking all of their songs, and I'm going to make a playlist, like a Spotify playlist that I can share with them, or that I can have rotating and playing in my office for when they come in for one-on-one meetings or PLC meetings. The truth is, I think music is really important right now. It really gives you insight into your teachers or your students. And the truth, I honestly did not know some of these songs. And some of the songs were very surprising. I didn't expect some of the teachers to pick those. So this was just a fun activity for them and a brain break, which I think is really important for our teachers right now, to encourage those brain breaks. Next, and this was one of my favorite activities to do with my students. I did this activity at the beginning of the year, but you could implement this honestly anytime you wanted. So it is Enneagram numbers. So I had my students go do their Enneagram test. It's a personality test at the beginning of the year. And, I try to make things like that fun, but the truth is I always have intention behind what I'm asking them to do. So you can see that this was created from the SWOT account. I'm kind of pointing this out because I have a reason, because I'm going to show you what I've done later, but this was created in the SWOT account, and they had to create their Enneagram number. So whatever their top Enneagram number was, they had to create a graphic that went along with it. So as you scroll through, you will see that they all added their graphic creations. And I have lots of 6s and lots of 2s and 3s. And so if you know anything about the Enneagram number, you know this, I have tons of 6s. So they're always very careful. This particular 6, I want to talk to you about it because it was created by a student who came to me last year and felt zero confidence in creating anything digitally. I gave him a self-paced lesson on just design competencies. He watched some videos, he did some practicing, he did some reflection, more practicing. And when he turned this in, I actually was blown away because it's very simple. And yes, it could be much better, but the truth is his growth from last year to this year shows right here in this one graphic. And I can't believe it. And his confidence has gotten so much better. So he has been taking his creations and actually pulling them into a portfolio for himself. Again, I invited my students because I wanted them to contribute. I copied this link over into their learning management system. You also could do a QR code or the code and give that to your little learners. And I know that they've added it. I know who added it because it asked for their name. So if you were having little learners, maybe if they have an ID number, you could have them use that. You could do initials depending on, if you don't have any duplicates. But my students put in their first and last name. So it's really up to you how they show that it's their work. But I think this is a great way to let them authentically share together. I've also done this with teachers. So I've put together a CHS teacher portfolio where teachers actually go add their own lessons here and it tells me who's added it. And then we do like large group shares or I do shout outs for them. Next is portfolios, which I mentioned with Wyatt. So this is the biggest way that I found students engaging with Wakelet. And the truth is, I've told everybody this all day. I was not a big Wakelet user until Julie sat down with me. This is a true story. I said, Julie, you need to do your resume and your portfolio. I am letting you decide how you create it, but here are the things I want included in it. And when she turned it in, I immediately said, I'm going to need you to show me how you did this because it blows my mind. So we're going to open up Julie's portfolio and I'm actually going to also open up Avery's portfolio because I want you to see the difference. Avery and Julie were both seniors last year. They're now in college. Shout out LCU. Avery is at my alma mater school. She is, I can't remember her degree plan. She wants to work for NASA. I love Avery's because it's simple. When you go to her portfolio, she has included everything I asked her to. Her resume, her professional Twitter account, which I sit side by side and work with them on. She's also added, she has her own personal calligraphy account. She's added presentations that she has presented live on webinars. She's showcased videos that she's helped create, podcasts, certificates, okay? Very simple, takes me to this one page, pretty easy for me to get an overall view of Avery. She did everything right. Remember, there is a way, not the way. So she met all of the learning goals and objectives for this. Now I'm going to show you Julie's. Julie did hers a little bit different. Okay. So she is like, here's my portfolio. This was actually an assignment. So she included her resume here. She created this in Canva, and then she's given me her link, her public link to her Wakelet portfolio. So I should have gone there first. Sorry for not having that already preloaded for you guys. Again, you're going to have links so you can get to this stuff when you want to look at it again. She's given a little description at the top. She has linked her professional Instagram, Twitter, and her website. See, remember, I did not ask for that. I only asked for a couple of things on her portfolio and her resume. And she has used her profile as her website or digital portfolio. So the digital portfolio, she has different collections and she made sections. So her resume's here, video she's created here, graphics here. She went through the student ambassador program for Wakelet. So she has added all of her different collections here. And then she's got SWAT. Obviously, she has some things that she's added for SWAT, for the SWAT class. And then you get to Madame Pastry, which is her baking business. And the truth, here's what you need to know. When Julie came to me, she did not have a baking business. And over the course of the time that we were together, she created this baking business. She created an Instagram and a website that went with her baking business. But what I love about her portfolio, you can see all of her different collections. This is everything she can do. And we always talk about, your resume is a promise of what you can do and your portfolio is proof. So on your resume, you can say that you're doing anything basically, but the portfolio is the proof of what you can do and it backs up what you've said on that resume. And so when you look at Julie's portfolio, there are 93 items. That means there are 93 pictures of cakes that she has created. I was her very first paying customer. And what I can tell you about Julie's cakes is that they did not start off super fancy. I want to scroll down because I want you to see this. And there are some really incredible things that she's done since she started. But you're going to start seeing they get a little more plain as we get to the bottom. Okay. And then they just become so much more elaborate. This chocolate cake here, first of all, it is incredible. So I keep trying to get her to remake this for me, and she keeps wanting to do things more elaborate. I like simple cakes, and chocolate is my favorite, but this was for my son's birthday, and this one's for my daughter's birthday. And that's really where she started. She started very basic. You can see. And then when you scroll up, you start seeing her progress. This is incredible because what she's done is she showcases this portfolio for her customers now, and she gets paid for doing cakes. And I'm telling you, her prices have now risen, including mine, for some of the cakes, almost $100 because of the amount of time that she's putting in and just the creativity behind it, and all the different elements. So she is my go-to cake person. And you can see she does some incredible work. I'm actually very proud of Julie. She's now taking orders for Christmas break. So she comes home over the holidays and she makes little Christmas gifts, I guess, for the people, and she delivers those. So I love Julie's portfolio. It gets shared pretty often, but the truth is, Julie didn't start off doing this portfolio. It sort of just took on a life of its own. And it's all because I said, hey, I want you to do a portfolio. I don't care what you're using. She chose Wakelet, and now it's just grown into this incredible portfolio. She's the reason when you go to my portfolio link, you will see it's in Wakelet as well. And Julie is the reason for that. So the spaces feature is new, and I kind of want to just show you this. I just put a screenshot here because I want you to see what spaces means. When I go to my Wakelet account, this picture right here I know is my main account. Then I created a space called SWAT, and I created a space for my digital coaching, and then I have an ambassador space here. This is why you were seeing different pictures and different creators for those different collections I was sharing. You could use this if you're running a club, if you're a coach of sports, if you like esports, which I know is a great cool thing that I really kind of want to be a part of with somebody. There's so many ways to utilize this. You could do this for your English classes, English 1 first period. I don't know how you would organize it. You could do it for any of your classes, but the organization is great. And what this helps me do, I was running all of these 3 accounts separately. Okay. So I was having to log off and log in and log off and log in. And now I can seamlessly go from each of those different spaces to those collections that I need. So it's just a really great new feature. It's very simple, but it helps people like us really utilize our time. I've also included here, this is for later, a call to action from my students. They talk about how students are using Wakelet. And if you start the video at 51 minutes and 18 seconds, you will hear my students' call to action for all teachers. This was a very, very popular session. Wakelet hosted them. They did this webinar. I believe it was in the summer or towards the end of the year in May. But they showcase how they're utilizing it, and you hear directly from them, which I think is super powerful. I know we're about to wrap up, so I just want to point out that I've added some extended learning for all of you. There is a Wakelet beginner choice board. So those of you that are just starting out, you can go to this choice board. You can actually choose one of the activities and slowly walk through it. If you feel like you have more of a grasp on Wakelet, I've also included an intermediate choice board as well for you. And I have included my contact information at the very bottom of this so that you can email me or reach out to me at any time. I am a Wakelet ambassador, and I would love to help any of you with any of your questions. If you're seeing that something's not working, or you're seeing that, maybe there's a bug or something that you need help with, reach out and let us know, and we'll contact support for you. We'll see if we can get a feature enabled for you if there's something you need. But again, there's a beginner choice board, and there's also an intermediate for you so that you can just practice, right? You just need some time and some space to practice. So what questions do we have? Amy says, I love the Enneagram. I love the Enneagram too, Amy. It's my favorite thing for just learning about people in general. Anybody else have any questions? Thanks, Kristen, for your comment. And Lori, it's a slow burn. Yeah, I'm hooked too. So
as far as Clever, I looked through the Clever menu and I did not see it, but I've already emailed Aquila. So Frederick, I'll email you the answer to that later.
Oh, Amy's a 5. I love that you guys are sharing your Enneagram numbers with me. It is my favorite thing. I will tell you, I can talk to you for probably 5 minutes if I'm really focusing on it, and usually guess the number. But I try not to be super obsessed with it because I feel like it overwhelms people sometimes. They're like, Tisha, stop talking about it. Amy, I just want you to know before we sign off, you should know that I am a 1. Which sometimes I'm not proud of saying that, because 1s are perfectionists. They also really want to fight for justice all the time. It's very exhausting to be a 1. But I'm supposed to hang out with 7s. So if there are any 7s out there, I'm supposed to hang out with 7s because they make me remember that it's okay to have fun and not have a plan.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to go take the Enneagram.
I know. I was just thinking that.
Okay, so that'll be my task for the rest of the weekend. Go take the Enneagram. So
it's a rough life. Amy's cracking me up on this chat. So is her husband. Listen, the fact that you're married to a 1, Amy, like, total kudos to you. My husband, like, I feel so bad for him. I'm like, last week, Jamila, I was like, hey, you're gonna come home and like our bedroom isn't going to look like how it looked when you left. And he was like, what is happening? And I was like, listen, I got to clean this up. We need some organization. He's like, it's your day off. I go, yeah, this is what I like to do on my day off.
He's like, darn it, she should have stayed at work.
Yes, for sure.
But yes, this has been another great session, guys. I mean, there are so many things that we can actually get when we empower our students to actually just create, to activate their own creative juices and just give them the floor. And that's the thing sometimes in the previous life that we had, we got stuck on, this is my room, this is you're going to do what I want you to do. It's like, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
It's like we need to actually remember, although even with the littles, they're little people. They do have the ability to think and process. Sometimes we just got to guide them, but not actually tell them.
Right.
And a lot of the times in education, we've seen that we've beaten the creativity out of our students. It's like, and I have to, I'm one of those parents that I can actually truly say, with discovering some things now, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do to my kids?
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
And sometimes it's hard for adults because they don't want to lose control. They want to have control.
Jeanette has hit the nail on the head. We all know that 1s also like control. Thank you, Catherine, for saying so. I've had such a great time with you. 1s love control. And the truth is, Jeanette, that my career in education, right? The minute I let go of that, and I said to myself, I need to let them do this. I need to let go of some of those super strict boundaries and mindsets and thoughts that I had as an educator. Really, the truth is, when I started doing that, becoming an educator then was like so much fun, because I felt like now we were side by side learning and teaching, and I was empowering them. And that's the truth. The empowerment that you give your students and our own children, Jamila, like I totally get what you're saying, because I'm like, oh my gosh, because the same thing happened to me as a kid. I remember being super creative, and the older I got, it was like it was kind of beaten out of me. And I thought, well, if I can't successfully do this the first time, I just have no business doing it. And that is not the truth.
Right.
Okay, guys, that is not the truth for you guys or me or our students. So we just have to remember to encourage them.
Mm-hmm. And my thing is, and as you said, the first time is not necessarily always going to be that perfect thing. I used to tell my students all the time, guess what, guys? My favorite word, fail.
Yes.
Your first attempt in learning.
Yes.
Mhm.
If you're not failing at something, you're not growing. The kid that always wins and always gets it right the first time, I'm gonna need you to try harder, because you're not challenging yourself enough.
Yeah.
I need you to do more.
Yeah, what is it I say? I said in the last session, and I'll say it again in this one. Brene Brown is my absolute favorite, but I listened to that podcast this week, and she said, if you're comfortable, you're not learning. And so I tell my students that, and I will tell students just randomly that aren't my class when they're like, this isn't easy. And I'm like, well, you didn't come to school for things to be easy. Like, you're supposed to be here to learn.
Right. And my thing is, learning does not happen when you're actually, you're right, comfortable. Because even with us as adults, we get complacent when we're actually in roles and in positions. And I can say I'm one of those people, because I've, found, okay, I love education, and not what I chose to do in life, but I still love it. But it's like, okay, where do I go from here? Because I've gotten comfortable,
Right.
and I need to push, because
Yeah.
there's more that I'm supposed to be giving.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with our students. We got to allow them to, challenge themselves, and not let them get off on the, well, I didn't do it right. And
But it reminds me of what we're going through right now. Me working with teachers and training teachers, and them bringing what they've just like, and I know the DLSs have been a great support as far as the technology world, but it was kind of like, oh, we want Schoology. We want to do Schoology. Then all of a sudden it's like, you have no choice but to do Schoology. And the things that have come out of these teachers are just amazing, because they've had to they were thrown into the deep end, and it's like sink or swim. And now it's just like the creativity that's coming out, and what I see is just, it's just amazing. So if we did that in the classroom too, then I know that there would be a huge difference in those creativity skills.
I think you're absolutely right, Jeanette. I'm seeing the same thing with my teachers. They are doing things that they never would have done before. They're pushing themselves in ways that they just were too afraid to do before all of this. But I think what is great about it is their students are watching, right? Their students are watching them take risks. And like at my campus, we have teachers teaching people just like this, like we are now, like on Zoom or, Google Meet. And they're also at the same time teaching students in the class. And so they're doing two completely different jobs at the same time. I just think it's great for the students to watch that. And I've really been encouraging the students to also support the teachers, because it is not easy out there, you guys. I'm your biggest fan. Teaching is hard, but it's really hard in 2020.
Yes. And guys, just to let you know, the super secret word for this session is encourage. So if you didn't get that, remember, it's going down on the ticker down at the bottom. The super secret word for your session is encourage.
Awesome. Do you guys have any other questions? Thanks, Alfred. I have enjoyed being with all of you. Reach out to me on email. I put it in my little name tag there, tishajponcio@gmail.com, or on Twitter. And I will, like, if you need copies of anything, or a link isn't working, or you have a question, please reach out to me. I would love to support you and help you in any way that I can.
So were there any other questions for the people that we still have with us? She has been awesome, and I'm going to reach out to you definitely, because now Wakelet is going to be definitely something that I push for my teachers, because here's another way to actually create that portfolio of all the awesome things that you're doing. Because we have teachers that are growing, and they're not curating the information in any way.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And I think as I present those examples, those are not new examples to me, but every time I present them, I am just amazed at the growth. And I think the teachers, when they see their examples, like if you guys showcase, like your DLSs showcase those teacher examples, they start seeing their growth and seeing like, oh, like I can do this. So now I can do that. Right. So they're just always moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And even with that, remembering we used to actually always want our students to do the portfolios. Well, now we need to get back to that, because even whether they're, middle school, high school, get them to start creating those portfolios. Let them see how they've grown. We used to always do the writing folders so they could see, okay, when I was in second grade, oh my God, I couldn't spell to save my life. And they're in high school now. They're like, what was I even thinking?
Yes.
But they see their growth. And that's the thing now that, with the brick and mortar not necessarily being the place anymore, we need to give them a place to actually store these things so they can watch themselves as they've grown, and they can see how that impact of that educator has actually put on them, but what they've actually shared back with other people.
Absolutely. I think it also goes, the Wakelet examples have really showcased that my students have learned these skills. Like Julie, the example that Julie's like running her own business, and she's not even like, she's a freshman in college, right? She's running her own business as a 17-year-old in my classroom. It kind of was mind blowing to watch that process happen. And when you go to some of those examples I've shared on both of those session links that I've done today, you see the growth in those students. And the truth is, Jamila, we've said it, but like, we got to get out of the way. Like, so we just got to get out of the way and let the students lead sometimes, right? Yes. And let go of that control.
And that's the thing. And, I remember when my daughter was little, and she would actually, the teacher gives them the opportunity to teach the class for the day. And the teacher actually told me one time, she was like, well, she got in trouble teaching the class. I was like, what she do? She was like, well, she kept kicking up shoes. And then she goes to the board. I was like, but where did she learn that from? He's like, yeah, you taught her some things, but she's actually internalized that as part of teaching.
Without ever saying a word, right?
Right. So it's like, imagine when we just give them these tools. Absolutely. And we just let them discover.
Let them go.
And that's the biggest thing, that especially my special ed students that I notice, all of them, when you give them something, you give them a small parameter. You don't have to tell them the whole thing. They go in and they start discovering. I always tell kids,
Jamila, you are like, you have so many great points, because listen to me before we end this session. I need all of you to listen to my little story, right? Because I'm always saying, let the kids teach you. So I try to follow my own advice. Right. I think I've told you yesterday, my kids were like, Miss Poncio, we're playing Among Us. And I was like, so I had a very small window of time, which is very like it never happens. But I was kind of in the mood. I was kind of open. I had the time, which is the key, right? Teachers want more time to experiment. So I said, okay, I'll let you teach me Among Us, which is the super popular game now with all the kids, including my 5th grader. Mm-hmm. So I go into this game. I am trying to read the instructions. Okay. I read them. They make no sense to me. They're very short. Okay. Here's what I learned. All of you that are still watching, if your students are saying, I don't know where the assignment is, or I didn't get the instructions, the truth is they are not telling you the complete truth, because they can go on TikTok and Among Us with very limited guidance and figure out how that works. I was like, I kept asking questions like, so I don't understand, like, where am I supposed to go? And they were like, oh, you just go to the map and you follow the map. And then I'm like, how did you know that? It didn't even say that in the instructions. They're like, Miss Poncio, you just learned. And I was like, aha, there it is. If we, they have gotten spoon fed so many things. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, it's that habit. It. We got to break them of that habit.
Yes.
But I learned Among Us yesterday. So if any of you are on Twitter and want to send me some YouTube videos on how to actually play this game, I would love them.
And my thing is, that's always the thing that I actually tell all of my teachers. Your students come with that, I don't know how to do this or whatever. Well, when you got that Xbox, that PlayStation, you didn't go and ask mom, well, how do I jump? Exactly. You sat there and pushed them buttons until something happened. And you remember what you did, so you can actually recreate that scenario. Nobody told you how to actually play it.
Right. Exactly.
Try it.
So I've been beating my head against the wall trying to help the teachers, because their biggest complaint right now is when my students said they can't find the assignment in Google Classroom. And so Friday was an epiphany for me. I was like, they are pulling your leg. Mm-hmm. They are.
And like, yep, okay. And that's why I tell people all the time, share your screen with me. So that's the wonderful thing about, just giving people the ability to dive into things and actually explore it with you and actually teach you. So you got to be willing to let them teach you. So,
Yeah.
guys, our time is actually coming to an end, but this has been another awesome session. Tish, you are just a bomb.
Thank you so much, all of you, Aldine ISD, TCCA, all of you that have joined me today. It has been such a pleasure, and it just made my Saturday so full of joy and gratitude. So thank all of you.
Thank you all, and we will actually see you. We got a couple more sessions today, so don't tune out. But go ahead and join some other sessions and see what more you can learn and experience. You all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting all of you.